Turkish Airlines presents Business Africa.
Hello and welcome to this new edition of Business Africa. I'm Dayoka, the major stories this week. As the European Union undergoes a repositioning in Africa, Germany hosted an investors' conference under the G20's Compact with Africa initiative. In Senegal, industrial overfishing by foreign trawlers has destabilized a sector employing 17% of the Senegalese working population. Finally, we'll head to the Central African Republic where President Faustin Touadéra inaugurated the country's second photovoltaic power station. Germany's outreach to Africa that was launched by Angela Merkel has been extended by her successor Olaf Scholz. In Berlin, the objective was to support private investment in Africa.
Berlin hosted a meeting of African countries of the G20 as part of the Compact with Africa initiative launched by Angela Merkel in 2017. Through a combination of public-private investment, the initiative aims to promote the expansion of renewable energies and industrial development in the 13 African countries participating. Africa, with its resources, is a key partner in moving towards a climate-neutral future. However, as emphasized by the chairperson of the EU Commission, substantial and diverse investment are needed to harness this potential. There is an immense potential. There is a rapidly growing population and a young population. The African continent is open to different partnership. We hope that you trust us and that we impose fewer conditions and that we create them together.
Pour rendre attractifs les investissements. Ça, c'est dans notre ressort.
Additionally, Germany will invest 4 billion euros in the EU's Green Initiative for Africa by 2030. To be very clear, it is not about development aid following the outstated pattern of donors and beneficiaries. It's about a profitable investment for both parties. The German Chancellor aims for a win-win partnership to position Germany on the African continent. Trade between Berlin and Africa amounted to 60 billion euros last year, representing a fraction of its trade with Asia, but a 21.7% increase from 2021.
Compact with Africa was launched in 2017 to boost the economies of member states via private investments. 6 years later, the initiative proved successful. We're joined by Christoph Kanendiza, Managing Director of the German African Business Association, for an answer. Welcome to Business Africa, sir. What was at stake during this 4th edition?
It's important that this conference is taking place and that so many African heads of states and governments have come to Berlin, because it increases the recognition and knowledge of the potential of the African continent for German companies. So this is a major event dedicated to Africa. In terms of project and investments, I believe that this direct contact between German companies and African political decision makers will generate concrete projects and concrete investments.
We've seen an increase in trade between Germany and Africa, but why hasn't a similar evolution occurred in manufacturing?
I
think it's going to take time, first of all, because German industry is geared towards other regions of the world, such as Asia, Eastern Europe, and the United States. The African continent has not really been on the radar of German companies, and that doesn't change in a few months. The industry is already invested elsewhere, so we need to mobilize additional investment. The current geopolitical situation favors the African continent. We are talking about it a lot more. We realize that these are alternative markets. For example, there are interesting resources, but there are also very good conditions for renewable energies. All of these encourages industrialization on the African continent, and I'm convinced that German industries will focus focus more on Africa.
Allemand va davantage faire partie de cette orientation vers l'Afrique.
6 years after the Compact with Africa initiative was established, how would you assess it? What could be improved to maybe appeal to new countries?
Alors tout d'abord, je crois qu'on peut faire un bilan.
So first of all, I think we can draw a positive balance sheet. All the macroeconomic figures show that the compact countries have benefited from this initiative in economic terms and in terms of direct investment in their countries. But things are not moving fast enough, and I believe that this is above all the duty of the G20 countries, and especially the European countries, to make a greater commitment, for example, by improving financing conditions. There are quite a few member states of the Compact that can move forward more quickly, and there are also, I would say, former Compact countries such as Guinea and Burkina, where we have seen political changes that were not at all favorable to the initiative. There are countries like Morocco, Kenya and Senegal that are moving forward very quickly. But all in all, I will say that the Africans are doing their duty, but there are quite a few that can only move forward much more quickly.
Les Africains font leur devoir, mais il y en a pas mal qui peuvent avancer aussi beaucoup plus vite qu'ils le font actuellement.
Christophe Kanengiza, thank you.
Avec plaisir.
Industrial overfishing threatens Senegal's waters that are abounding in fish. This was shown by a recent Environmental Justice Foundation report. The report found that catches by small-scale fishermen in canoes fell by 58% between 2012 and 2019. 77% of fishermen surveyed saw their income decline in a 5-year period. Of course, fishing methods used by trawlers are blamed. 88% of fishermen report regularly seeing trawlers operate in areas reserved for them or nearby. Our correspondent in Dakar has the details.
In Rufisque, on the outskirts of Dakar, life has never been so bleak for these fishermen. The scarcity of fish in Senegalese waters has almost completely destroyed their occupation, even though the country has 718 kilometers of coastline, with some of the richest fish stocks in the world. We go as far as Conakry and Freetown for 8 days just to look for fish. We spend up to 4 million francs, but we can't even get home with 500,000. You can see how hard it is. Words of despair which reflect the crisis between small-scale and industrial fishermen who are in constant conflict because of overfishing. A recent report by the Environmental Justice Foundation notes that 65% of fishermen's incomes have fallen as a result of the unsustainable practices of trawlers. We're at the stage where one person is monopolizing a quantity intended for 1,000 people. This isn't possible. Despite this, we are ready to sit down with the ship owners and let the government decide. For their part, the ship owners deny plundering fish stocks. This company director is nevertheless convinced of the need to create the conditions for peaceful cohabitation. We're working in the same area, so there's bound to be frustration and problems, and that's something we can't avoid. But we have set up an economic practice entity in the fishing port, which works to harmonize the activities of the two groups, small-scale fishing and industrial fishing. We contacted the Ministry of Fisheries, but they declined to comment. Fishing accounts for 3.5% of Senegal's GDP and also provides 20.9% of export revenues, or nearly 115.5 billion CFA francs.
With its new photovoltaic solar power plant funded by the World Bank, the Central African Republic tackles its electricity problems in a bid to boost development.
President of Central African Republic, Faustin Touadera, on Friday inaugurated the largest solar power plant in the country, covering nearly 70 hectares. The solar park, located in Danzi, 17 kilometers from the capital Bangui, was built with a World Bank finance of 19 billion francs to boost the capacity of the National Electricity Company, which is struggling to supply the capital. The construction of the power plant is in line with the program to strengthen the energy sector's institutions. This is one of the priority programs of the National Energy Policy. and one of the objectives set during COP21 in Paris.
De la politique énergétique nationale et fait partie des objectifs fixés lors de la COP21 à Paris.
Nearly 47,000 panels are installed on the site with a current capacity of 25 megawatt, which can be increased to 75 megawatt for a population of over 250,000.
At Danzi,
we have 46,984 panels, and our production capacity will reach 75 megawatts, making an effective contribution to electricity production in the city of Bangui. Today in Bangui, from 7 a.m. to 6 p.m., customers have electricity at all times. It's only in the evening that we start to experience some load shedding. Before this power plant, 90% of the country's electricity was generated by diesel. Load shedding periods are rationed by sector and by hour, a situation that seriously undermined the country's economic activities.
That does it for this week's Business Africa. You can watch this episode once again on Africanews.com and on all our platforms. I'll see you soon.
Business Africa was presented by Turkish Airlines.